Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me, what are you laughing at?
I was just looking at us like, we're just so scruffy, man. It's the.
I meant to shave yesterday.
It's the playoff beard.
Yeah. Well, and with me today is a man who the only hair on his head is his facial hair.
That's so mean. Well, we're off to a strong start.
You set me up for that one.
I know I did. I really did because I had to. I was just like, there's sometimes where I'm sitting through that intro music and because we can see each other, and I'm just like, sometimes I can see you jam into it, and then sometimes I'm just like, I wonder what he's thinking.
And then for like the next, like, was it like the last 5 seconds before? It's just like I already smile. I'm like ready to go.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, I have to act happy.
But yeah, so we're going to be talking some MLS stuff. We missed the midweek games. We didn't get to talk about them on the weekend because we were both busy. Or the original plan was to record on Saturday. But so we're going to kind of catch up on both of those. We're not going to probably go scoreline by scoreline. It's just a lot of stuff to catch up on. We got U.S. stuff. We have a guest joining us in a few minutes as well. So we'll be welcoming them on at some point. So, we try to keep these between an hour and a half. Usually we're more leaning towards the hour recently. So let's go ahead and just quickly talk of some quick news. The big news of today was that LAFC have traded Mark-Anthony Kaye to the Colorado Rapids. And this was broken by Tom Bogert earlier this afternoon. And has already been announced officially by both clubs. So Colorado is sending $1 million in general allocation money and a 2022 international roster slot to LAFC, and they will get the first-round pick in the Super Draft and Mark-Anthony Kaye. So Colorado getting a midfielder. LAFC is what we were reading. I had it on here. It is sorry, I have another tweet up at the same time, so I'm trying to locate. Sam Stejskal had agreed with the reporting, but also added a little bit more on there about who they are looking for. It's going to help LAFC acquire Colombian forward Christian Arango. And the club is expecting to finalize his signing soon. And it also says that neither team is done dealing. So Rapids trying to ascend up the table. They are in fourth place. They're above LAFC right now. They're in a good spot. They're going to get Mark-Anthony Kaye, who I've heard a lot of LAFC fans recently have been kind of harping on anyway. And what do you make of this? $1 million of general allocation money, Logan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good chunk of change. I will say that. I know that going into the season, I think that people were hoping that he would step into a role in their midfield and be creative. Just because they had taken a step backwards from what they had been in that dominance. But again, you were without Carlos Vela, so I think that had a lot to do with it. But yeah, this is an interesting one. I think it's a good move. It's kind of like those change of scenery trades that you see oftentimes in other sports as well, where a guy just needs a fresh start. And it looks like Mark-Anthony Kaye is going to get at least his version of a new scenery. So, I think it's an interesting move. Kaye had 9 starts in 10 games that he's played in. So it's a guy that had been plugged into their starting lineup quite a bit in that midfield. But they do have a lot of midfielders that I think are just it clogs up that situation there. They got Latif Blessing. Cifuentes is also there, along with a couple other pieces. So, with Atuesta in there, I just don't know where Mark-Anthony Kaye fits into that program. And I think that the Rapids are looking for a midfielder. So I think that's helpful for them.
Yeah, is Acosta leaving? I mean,
That's what I was starting to think. I was like,
that's what some
gonna,
people were starting to think is Acosta going maybe overseas or
yeah, like maybe he's doing the American thing where he's like, hey, I've played well enough in the Olympics or Olympic qualifying and Gold Cup and stuff. Maybe I can head over into a new situation. So yeah, maybe Acosta, and I do think Acosta's played a little bit better than he had been playing. I don't think he's anything to write home about, but yeah, it's an interesting move for the Rapids. It's an interesting move for LAFC, but again, LAFC just loading up on some money to get some more talent.
What I like about this from Colorado is the fact that they're not just going to sit pat. They are going out to get somebody. They're in 4th place in the West. 3rd is in real reach. 1st and 2nd kind of, Seattle and KC kind of starting to pull away a bit more. But they're also 5 points up from the drop of the playoff zone. If they make a deal like Mark-Anthony Kaye, if he works out for the team and he contributes and they move, they continue to kind of ascend, then they're going to have that gap between them and the playoff drop a lot bigger, and they'll be able to maybe make a push for a title, which I don't know the last time we can say that the Rapids were really title contenders or, even this high in the West. So still anything can change with the gap, but the gap is starting to grow a bit more in the West and in all of these. Maybe the East is still getting kind of tight, but the gap is starting to grow a bit, and we're starting to see these teams make decisions that are going to influence which way they end up going on all of this. And I think this might be one that works beneficially for both teams. And that, if LAFC is going to spend some more money to bring in a different player, it is kind of weird. It's a forward, I guess, and not somebody that's going to be like a like for like. But I guess we will see how it goes from there. But yeah, this is the biggest news of the day. Here is this trade, and like I said, Stejskal says that both teams are not done, so I'm assuming that means we're going to get some more stuff here pretty soon.
I was going to say that the transfer window for MLS closes, their registration window closes at August 5th, so they've got about a week and a couple days to figure it out. Well, some of these other Premier League,
a week and 2 days.
Yeah, the Premier League and everybody else is still going through August, so. It'll be interesting because there's a lot of clubs I think that are going to be looking for pieces over in Europe because they're trying to get their teams up and going because preseason started. So it'll be interesting to see how many MLS guys are plucked off the next coming week or so as people come back from Gold Cup and different cups that they've been in off seasons and vacations. So.
Next bit of news here: Ricardo Pepi has signed a new 5-year deal to last with Dallas till 2026. Not he actually stay that long, but it is a nice pay increase for him before he makes any sort of jump.
Next week.
Yeah, probably in the coming weeks. I mean, because they have been talking about there was a team, I think Bologna, that was looking at him just this week. So, Dallas is going to end up flipping him, but I think it's nice of them to, give him the bump.
And pretend that he's going to be there for 5 years.
Yeah.
For the fan base,
social media, yeah. Hey, we like this guy. Hey, he signed. He scored 3 goals on one of their games this past match week. FC Dallas actually changed their old Twitter handle to FC Ricardo Pepi, and I don't know what they'll do when he leaves. They'll just be FC. Because they don't certainly represent Dallas with the way they're playing. But yeah. Good move for him, I guess. Get the money or I guess he gets probably a signing bonus or something before he would move on. Otherwise, I don't know the point of it, I guess. Some news between football and football. Patrick Mahomes joining the Sporting Kansas City ownership group. That's fun. I mean, he's the Royals owner as well. He plays for Kansas City Chiefs. He is also seen frequently at the games in supporter sections and, jumping around chanting. So, hey, that's pretty good. When you can say when you can have somebody like Patrick Mahomes bringing a spotlight nationwide.
Yeah.
I mean, who was it that just shared this too? Adam Schefter shared this. And that's like a whole base of people that usually will not know anything about the MLS. So pretty good for them to get out that way as well. Kind of the same way Russell Wilson is the owner of Sounders.
Yeah. I was going to say the second biggest name in NFL, Patrick Mahomes, I'd say behind Brady now. And Brady he'll take over. Thomas Brady.
He's still playing.
Yeah, that guy. I think he's like Miami's 13th DP or something like that. But no, but it is good because Patrick Mahomes grew the game of football in a different way. And if he can get his hand in on the cauldron of, especially with Sporting Kansas City because of how good they are, that's exciting stuff for everybody involved, and get some youth players excited because our youth is up and coming.
Now let's get to some depressing news.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about before that there are these what is the word I'm looking at here? Like contracting places that are helping find jobs for some of these MLS teams.
Yes. Yeah. The firms, the hiring firms. Yeah.
One is called Sportsology. And guess who is helping, who enlisted Sportsology? None other than the San Jose Quakes, who I think have been using these type of places before.
Same firms, yeah.
They are going to hire a GM by the end of September is the goal, with a short list of 4 to 5 candidates by mid-August. If you don't know who Sportsology is, just get ready for this. Paul Tenorio points out, for those unfamiliar, Sportsology has been involved in front office hires in MLS, such as Inter Miami, FC Cincinnati, and Chicago.
Oh.
Some alarming things here as well is that this person, the chairman, Mike Ford of Sportsology, is also helping St. Louis.
Oh, dear.
So I think if you look at that, St. Louis is probably not going to have a hot start. If I'm looking at it this way.
If you're betting.
Now, it says Sportsology works across all sports. They've been involved in the NBA and other leagues as well, but let's just say their MLS track records is not so great. Jonathan Tannewald points out as well that this is probably a hefty fee that they are paying Sportsology, money that could go somewhere else. Is it really that hard to put together a list of candidates to bring in a GM?
I wouldn't think so. Not in a major sport in the United States, and especially in markets that do pretty well. I would assume San Jose is one of the top still because I saw they were one of the top 5 markets for the Gold Cup when watching. So, that area in California, I don't understand. Can't they reach out to some of these NFL stars? I know the Dolphins had gone through this kind of relationship where they pooled a bunch of celebrities and money together, athletes that lived in South Miami, and then they hired a football mind to kind of run that. And I think that's something that should be successful, not these hiring
Why can't
firms.
they just look at other GMs in the league, GMs that are doing well? Or like the Union did, and they went out and got Ernst Tanner, who is, a football director from a different country. Why are you enlisting the help of Sportsology, who probably, I would assume, doesn't know much about, I feel like they wouldn't know much about this, and they're really just getting a list of candidates together, and then, obviously the people making the decisions are in the club or whatever, but it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, and I'm worried about St. Louis because let's read out those club names. Are you ready? Inter Miami, FC Cincinnati, Chicago. All 3 of those teams suck right now.
And have had no progression. They've regressed, I think.
San Jose even. They've used these type of people before. Maybe not Sportsology, but they've used these people before.
Yeah.
And I think they said that was the last 2 hires for San Jose. And they've gone nowhere. So I don't know. It just seems pointless. Just how can you not just go out and find somebody?
But I think the issue too is there's an issue in finding people because sometimes it's like a Robert Kraft or it's like a David Beckham with this party of whoever he has with him. I don't know. It just seems like soccer hasn't gotten to the point where they've gotten like legitimate ownership. And I think the Wolf family that now owns Orlando as of a couple of days ago, I think that that's a step in the right direction. If you can get more of these big football names, I guess, Robert Kraft being one of them.
Kraft doesn't really do anything.
No, but at least he's got money, and at least he's got that stature of like, oh, this is a Robert Kraft production. Whereas like if you can get that with other things, and I think other big time billionaires or other owners are stepping in and they're kind of going, hey, this might be something that's worth the investment. And once they start seeing these young talents starting to flip, I think you're going to start to see some of those dominoes fall, because it's a great way to make an investment. Invest in this youth talent, flip them around, keep some of that money, and then spend it on some players. Ultimately, you're just going to be making money off these younger players that keep going to Europe.
All right, let's move on to the actual results. The games here. Wednesday, we had some midweek matches. The Crew drew with Nashville 0-0. New England scored 5 past Miami. New York City FC beat Montreal 1-0. Toronto and New York Red Bulls drew 1-1. Chicago and DC drew 2-2. Cincinnati drew with Atlanta 1-1. Kansas City drew with San Jose 1-1. The Rapids beat Dallas 2-0. Salt Lake drew with LA Galaxy 2-2. And the Portland Timbers beat LAFC 2-1. Then on Thursday, Orlando City beat Philadelphia Union 2-1 in the Stateside Soccer Show Derby. And it was a very fun game, very entertaining game. And then we had Austin lose to Seattle 1-0 with the goal of the week by Raul Ruidiaz. Just fantastic goal. He comes on. They started 5 homegrown teenagers that game, Seattle did. And Austin fans visibly upset that they could not beat a team with half of the squad being teenagers. And then Raul Ruidiaz comes in and scores a moment of magic. And that was all for the midweek games. Anything really stand out to you that much? Let's just say we will talk some Revs in a little bit. We are having one of our pals from Revolution Recap on, and we will be able to talk about them more in depth this episode. But just anything other than the Revs sticking out to you on the midweek?
Yeah, I think going through the fixtures and stuff and looking at the table along with the results that we had this midweek, I would say that Nashville is again a team we did not expect. Jordan and I think we had them bottom of the playoffs, both of us. So I think that when you look at a team, maybe not, maybe to be, bottom of the playoffs.
6 and 7,
yeah. I thought for some reason I thought that was like the really bad side of the thing. I was like, whoa, we didn't have that one, did we? No, but we had them bottom of the playoffs. But right now they're sitting pretty in that second spot. They've got a match in hand. They're only 7 points off the leaders in New England, which we'll get to. But again, I think that Nashville's played extremely well. That Hani Mukhtar is starting to play really well, which they really needed. And I think that they're really going to battle for a top 4 spot, which is huge because you get that home field advantage. And looking forward to the playoffs, I think that you need about 40 something to get in. So they're about halfway to that destination, and I think they get there pretty easily. So it's a pretty interesting start for Nashville. And now that we're getting further and further into the season, I think that they've become a team that's going to be super competitive and give some of those top 4 teams a run for their money in the East.
One of the things that really, I guess, stood out to me in the midweek was Atlanta, and we'll kind of talk about them again with the weekend results. But I guess no, they didn't play this weekend, did they? Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. All right, I see it right here. I'm blind. But the fact is that they haven't had that new interim manager bump or anything, right? Like they are they cannot score. They are out of ideas. They get to the box, they whip in crosses, they don't know what to do. They're other times they're building up play and nothing really goes their way. And then another team usually scores or, nicks a 1-0 win, as we'll see at the weekend results. And it's been rough. I mean, look, Cincinnati's there for the taking, right? And they draw 1-1 with them. Cincinnati has not been good this year. They'll face the Crew, who's always a tough one, but there was times where they dominated parts of that game and just couldn't score on the weekend. And it makes me wonder where they go from here. They need a full rebuild, I feel like, at this point. You just build around Joseph Martinez and move everybody else. I don't know who else. I mean, who else deserves to be on that Atlanta team?
I don't think Miles Robinson stays around for much longer.
Right.
He's played
He's not
extremely
going to
well.
stay around long.
Santiago Sosa won't be around for much longer either. That's crazy to say because he just signed, but I think within the year he's gone. Not this year, but I think if you give it a year, if you look 365 days on this roster, I don't think Santiago Sosa's around. Just because I think he'll get poached off by one of these European teams, just by how impressive he's been. George Bello has talked about making a move. Moreno has talked about making a move. So, you've got a lot of good players that I think Ezekiel Barco, who I think thinks highly of himself, but he just doesn't have the talent I think that you need.
They got to move on from him anyway. Yeah.
So I just think,
Suzanne's getting up there. You have to find a different keeper at some point.
And you've got that young keeper, but again, it's just a matter of this team is in that real dangerous spot. If you're an Atlanta fan, you've got to feel they're in a really dangerous spot because I don't think that this team has 5 or 6 pieces that are absolutely studs. I think it's more of Joseph, and then you've got Santiago Sosa and Miles Robinson up and coming. I think that's the 3 you look at and go, these are difference makers in this league. But once it starts to get to a certain point, you're going to get stuck in this spot where you've got too many pieces and they don't work, and you're just going to be going, I don't have any money to do anything else. So that's kind of where we are with them.
Bocanegra out.
Yeah, that's been trending big time all over Twitter.
I mean, so many of his signings have just not come across well. There was another one that they just got rid of. They sold him off or whatever, and it was somebody that never made an impact. I mean, I can't even think of his name right now. Let's talk about the weekend results. On Saturday, Atlanta lost to Columbus 1-0. I was watching that one. Toronto beat Chicago 2-1. Minnesota beat Portland 2-1. Come from behind victory for Minnesota. The shocker, this is the one that really stood out to me this weekend. Dallas beat LA Galaxy 4-0. Dallas. Ricardo Pepe FC scored 4 past LA Galaxy. Nashville beat Cincinnati 3-0. Salt Lake over the Rapids 3-0. San Jose 1, Houston 1, LAFC 2, Vancouver 2. LAFC not in a good run of form lately. We'll talk about the Revs in just a bit, but the Revs beat Montreal 2-1 to continue their good home form. New York City FC put 5 past Orlando. What happened there, Logan?
Let's blame a rotation game, please.
It was at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, it was at Yankee Stadium. Right? It was a rotation game, and Daryl DK, they just miss him so much.
Miami won. Philadelphia Union won. At Miami, just not a good game from the Union. They have not been up to par. They fell as far as 5th place before they played that game. DC United 1, New York Red Bulls 0. Kansas City beat Seattle 3-1. So now Seattle has lost 2 of their last 3, if I have that right. Just crazy here. And when we look at the standings, we have Seattle in top of the West, 32 points. Kansas City with 30. LA Galaxy still in 3rd with 25. They're falling a little bit further behind. The Rapids in 4th with 24. LAFC in 5th with 22. Minnesota in 6th with 21. And Salt Lake in 7th with 20. Portland right behind them with 19. Then you have Houston with 17. Dallas with 14. San Jose with 11, San Jose in 11th with 14, Vancouver in 12th with 14, and Austin waking up in last place, as our friends in Austin said.
Yeah, it's trouble in paradise for them, and that's another team that you kind of highlight. But I think they've got at least Precourt that I think he's got a little bit too much pride right now for the fact that he about left Columbus in a disarray and took the team with him. I think that he's got enough money and wits about him to try to pull this team up out of where they are. But again, you talk about success as an expansion team. Atlanta was kind of like that one-off that had really good success as soon as they joined the league. But now you see where they're kind of going back down towards the medium. So you kind of wonder exactly where this team's headed to, Austin, that is. And I know that there's been some issues with defense, obviously, and scoring is a big issue that they've been trying to solve because they've been trying to get just creative in that attacking, front. But I just don't see where this team's going to be that competitive.
Yeah, they can't score. That's part of their problems, even when they're playing against 15-year-olds from Seattle.
Yeah. They do defend pretty well, though.
home.
I'll give them that. Yeah.
They're having some problems there, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, they have had some good defense with Stuver in goal, but we'll see how it goes. Welcome to MLS. It's never a cakewalk. So all these Austin fans who thought it would be, it's not. Also, welcome to Precourt. Probably not going to put that much money in it, to be honest.
Now, is Precourt where you go before you go onto a trial, or is that? Oh, never mind.
No, that's perjury.
Oh man.
Yeah, but we'll see. Go follow Top Flight Pod for the if we want to continue the court puns. They will be judge, jury, and executioner on how
they're top flight
this year. So go ahead and check them out. They'll let you know. That's our friend Hernan, who's been on the show a few times. He'll let you know how Austin's feeling about it, because from the sense I get, a lot of people not too happy. People asking for Josh Wolf to be gone, which, again, he can only do what he's really provided with. And it's going to take more than a year to build. You cannot really be, like you said, being in Atlanta is very rare. Coming right in, being competitive, and then the next year winning MLS Cup is very rare. Very rare. So we'll see how that goes. Anything else stand out to you on the weekend? We kind of mentioned Dallas putting 4 past the Galaxy. Man, I just increased it another goal there. Sorry.
I was going to say, you're really mad about
Galaxy
blasting through poor teams that don't even stand a chance when Jordan's reading score lines. No, I guess, looking at the weekend, we're in a weird spot. We're in that grinding part of the summer. Once you get up out of this fog of Gold Cup and the transfers and letting everybody settle in from their transfers as well, I think you're going to start seeing teams kind of fall into place. You are starting to get to a point where you're seeing the clear runners in each of the conferences. But I think that if you look at the standings, you realize that the East is a little bit tighter than the West. I think the West is starting to get more big gaps in between the teams. So a real tight run in the East. It looks like it's going to be pretty much.
Let's talk the East. I talked the West. Sorry, New England in first with 33 points. Nashville up to second with 26. Orlando in third with 25. The Union down to fourth with 24 points. Columbus in fifth with 24 points. New York City FC in sixth with 23 points. Montreal in seventh with 22. In eighth, DC United in 20. So that's the first team below the playoff line. Red Bulls in ninth with 18. Atlanta in 10th with 14. Toronto in 11th with 13 points. Cincinnati in 12th with 13 points. Chicago in 13th with 12 points. And Miami is now the bottom team. There is Toronto, since they got rid of their manager, has now leapfrog all the way up to 11th. So the East has a big battle at the bottom, and it has a battle that's widening up top. So I guess we'll go ahead and bring our guest on here. Hello, Greg.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me back on. I'm really excited to be on with you guys. I really enjoyed talking to you the first time. And the last time I was on with you guys, I went back and I listened to the episode, and I heard after my interview, you guys kind of said that you weren't sold on the Revs. I didn't do a good
I don't know what you're talking about. I think we were all pretty high on
that. Either way, I'm glad to be back with you guys, and hopefully I convert you guys fully to believers this episode.
I don't think it may take much. I think the season has kind of spoken for itself, at least for this first run of games.
Yeah, so let's get into it a bit. They've for the beginning of the season, all the talk was on Seattle. They'd gone without having any losses. They still have one less loss than New England, but New England has now kind of pulled ahead. They're 1 point ahead of the Sounders with the same amount of games played. What do you think the chances are for not just MLS Cup, because we know that New England has had a bad history there, but like getting a supporter shield, or how do you feel about the chances with that, especially with Bruce Arena at the helm?
Yeah, certainly there is a little bit more optimism about that. I think at the beginning of the year, when I was talking to guys, I said a top 3 finish would be kind of sufficient for a successful season for the Revs. But yeah, at this point, with how the team is playing, everyone's kind of hitting on all cylinders. The 3 designated players are all playing really, really well. Carlos Heel has upped his game even more than what we expected. He's looking like an MVP candidate this year. And the other thing, too, is that it doesn't seem like Bruce Arena is going to be selling any major pieces. Matt Turner and Tajon Buchanan are obviously 2 guys that have been linked to Europe. And he kind of made a statement a few weeks ago that they're not planning on letting anyone go, off of their roster. They're not planning to sell anyone. So they seem to be really all in. Apparently another signing is coming in. Bruce Arena hinted at another signing a few weeks ago, but nothing has really come of that. So right now, everything is going great for the Revolution. Even though they've lost some players to the Gold Cup, they're still going strong. So Supporter Shield is definitely in the equation right now. It's a little bit harder because I know there's some really good teams out west, but certainly in the East, the Revs look like they control their own destiny.
It's good too because the way that they've changed the schedule right now too, we're mostly facing Eastern teams, so you might be able to rack up some games against like Miami and some of those teams that have been kind of bottom dwellers this season that can really help.
I think our 2 Western Conference team it's Dallas, which was a loss anyway, and then I think our other game is Colorado. So we kind of drew some lower tier teams in the West. We're not up against a Kansas City or a Seattle.
Right.
So we kind of drew a little bit lucky on the schedule there, but yeah, I mean the Revolution know that Eastern Conference really, really well in and out. So yeah, there's not a team in the Eastern Conference that I think scares any Revs fans.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I mean, you've got 3 guys gone with Gold Cup, and Buchanan, Matt Turner, and Kessler now that's joined them. With those 3 guys gone, it doesn't look like the Revs have really missed much. How do they fit those guys back in? I know that I listened to you guys' episode. I think you guys are on Twitter Spaces about a week ago or so, and you were talking about how Buchanan fits back in with this team when he gets back in. What do you see, Bruce doing with the formation, and how does that change when Buchanan gets back into the fold?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because before the Gold Cup, they were running a 4-2-3-1, and Adam Buxa was kind of sitting out a few games, and he was kind of being rotated in. Gustavo Bo was being played as the striker up top, and Gustavo Bo is having a phenomenal season right now. He's got 9 goals. I think he's 3rd in the league in goals. And Adam Buxa has had a pretty solid season too. He also has 7 goals, but is kind of drawing the short end of the straw. So with Buchanan gone, they've been able to play them both, and they're playing more of a diamond formation and a 4-4-2 diamond. So when they come back, we were talking about this a little bit on our podcast last week. There's a debate on whether or not they're sticking with the 4-4-2 or if they go back to that 4-2-3-1, which is what Bruce Arena has played most of the time he's been in New England. I still think there's some more games to be played before the end of the Gold Cup. I still think that there is a few more games to test out this diamond, because it's one thing to beat up on Miami. It's another thing to go against, New York City FC. So I think they're going to revert back to the 4-2-3-1, but I wouldn't be shocked if we stick to the 4-4-2 if we end up staying, undefeated and if we keep winning. But you mentioned Buchanan specifically. I think the reason we go back to the 4-2-3-1 is because Bruce Arena views him as a winger, and there is a case to be made that he plays kind of that attacking wing-back role at right back, which is what Brandon Bai is playing right now. So they might stick with the 4-4-2 and kind of keep Buchanan as an attacking wing-back. But just knowing how Bruce Arena has played Tajon this season, I think he's going to want to put him kind of on that right wing where he's performed really, really well with the Revolution this year.
It's kind of crazy. It's like some of the teams that have lost players to the Gold Cup or to injury, I feel like they've been doing a lot better than some of the teams that have kept their whole team. Like we had Seattle and their injury list before the Gold Cup, and then they have some players on Gold Cup, and then you have the Revs and just excuse Atlanta from there. But the other question I had for you is about the striker partnership here with Bo and Buxa, as they both have Bo with 9 goals and Buxa with 7. And, when you look at the rest of the league, you have Rui Diaz with 11, you have Chicharito with 10, and then Salwe and Pepe with 8, and then a whole bunch of people with 7. but it definitely seems like they are probably the strongest strike partnership in MLS currently.
Yeah, I mean, and not just that, but someone tweeted out the, production from the designated player groups across MLS. And if you just look at it from a goals and assists standpoint, I think the Revs have 16 and 16, and no one is matching that production. So if you add in Carles Gil, just that those three players have done spectacular this year. I actually just tweeted out a stat about Gustavo Bo because I was doing some research before hopping on here, and he actually has 3.78 expected goals, but he has 9 goals total. So he leads MLS. That's according to American Soccer Analysis. So he's got a expected goal differential of 5.22, which is easily in first place. Ricardo Pepe in Dallas is 4.17. So just as an example of how clinical Gustavo Bo has been and how productive he has been, he's really killing it as a striker this year. And in terms of Buxa, he's still had a bit of a hit or miss season. He's scored 7 goals, but there have been some chippy moments. There have been some times he hasn't put away chances. He relies a lot more on service in the air. And so I think maybe his chances are just a little bit harder to come by. But he still found the net 7 times. So his expected goals are around, I think, 8.5. So he's a little bit off his expected goals pace. But he's certainly taken a step forward. I know we talked about that in our last episode.
Right.
He's taken a big step forward and is showing he's an MLS quality striker. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, we talk about Buchanan coming back. If they go back to that 4-2-3-1, who's that one? It's really hard to say. Gustavo Bo is he's really performing well. He's going to be your guy up top. So we're talking about Adam Buxa as a guy with 7 goals who's performing well, but down the stretch, he might be the odd man out in the starting lineup.
As a Union fan, I would definitely take 7 goals and 9 from Bo up top, because right now I think our leading goal scorer is Shabilko with 6. So yeah, that's been a problem area for us. But yeah, so a little envious over here.
It's certainly a very good problem to have. I will say that. You can never have
definitely.
Yeah.
So people that don't watch the Revs, give us kind of your pitch for Carles Gil and just why he deserves the talk of being MVP. What makes him so special, and how crucial is he to this team?
Oh, just watch one game and you'll be with me on this one. He should absolutely be MVP. I kind of call his position the point guard, because you really just get him the ball and he's going to just kind of control the entire offense. Whenever there's a slowdown, he's going to get the ball. They're going to find him the ball, and he's just going to find a way to get it into the box and create a lot of chances. One is just from the run of play, he's magical. He's able to find people behind the defense, and he's created a lot of chances. He's really good at anticipating passes. You really could just, if you just watch all of his assists, there are some where there was one play earlier this year where I think it was a secondary assist, but DeJuan Jones is down on the left side. He's the left back, and he's down on the ground, and he gets up and he sees the ball kind of going to Carles Gil in the middle, and immediately just knows to shoot deep. And kind of almost in stride perfectly, Carles Gil hits a long ball down the left, and DeJuan Jones is insanely speedy. So he'll just have that anticipation to kind of go deep down the left to hit DeJuan Jones. He's also had a nice few chip passes past the defense. He's really just able to place the ball perfectly wherever he wants it, and he's insanely dangerous off of set pieces, which makes Adam Buxa more dangerous because he's very good in the air. So from set pieces, from open play. He's also does a lot of work defensively too. He wins balls in the midfield as well. He's not just a one-trick pony. So he does a little bit of everything. He's a very creative playmaker. Just watch one Revolution game with Carles Gil and playing 90 minutes. You're going to be converted. And I think he has 13 assists right now. He's going for the all-time single-season assist record. I think the record is 26 with Carlos Valderrama in 2000. And then behind him, there are 2 people at 20. So by the end of the season, I'd be shocked if Carles Gil is not at least second on that list. And a lot of people are thinking he's going to break the record this year.
So I did have a question then for, like you mentioned on the episode that you joined us for the preview, the goal was, a top 3 finish in the East. The points are now very, the gap is widening. New England in first with 33, Nashville in second with 26. As they've kind of jumped up a bit, but Orlando and Philly kind of falling behind. Do you see it as the new goal is now first place? Maybe that supporter shield, or does the supporter shield satisfy New England fans, or is it really focusing on getting that first MLS Cup after, all those disappointing finals?
Yeah, I would say the number one priority is MLS Cup, just because of what you said. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Right.
0-5 is not a great record, so we'd like to kind of overcome that. Supporter Shield certainly would be nice to add to the trophy case, but I think MLS Cup is just the number one priority. And I think in terms of where we'd like to finish in terms of being satisfied, I think the number one seed is kind of the goal right now that everyone's focused on. Supporter Shield would be nice, but there are certainly some strong teams out in the West that, I think it would be understandable if the Revs, drop some points and Seattle or Kansas City pass them. But I think just in terms of home field advantage, where the Revolution, minus an off night against Toronto, they've been unbeaten this year. I think they want to secure home field advantage and kind of go into the playoffs with that one seed and kind of, again, control their destiny and have people come to New England as opposed to having to go down to Orlando or going to Columbus, because those are some atmospheres that, it's just a lot harder in high intensity,
and they've been very good at Gillette. Their record is very good there. They've had just the one loss.
Mm-hmm.
They're at 6 wins, no draws. So, yeah, definitely would want that game at home.
And that one loss, too, was a bit of a fluke. It was a midweek game against Toronto. It was right after Toronto fired Chris Armas. And they went down 3-0 real early. Brad Knighton made a pretty huge error. It was his first game with Matt Turner gone.
Right.
Conceded a few more times. And then the Revolution came back. They nearly tied the game and got away with a 3-3 draw. So even that game, it looks odd seeing an L next to the Toronto game. But if you watch the full context of that game, the Revolution certainly played better than or they're certainly better than they were that night.
So I do have a question about the legend of John Bell. You guys informed us of the legend John Bell and the hashtag that you guys have all thrown around on Revolution Twitter. So how's that story going? Just kind of fill us in on John and how he's doing. And do you see any kind of progress made? I know it's his first year kind of getting that helm there. Is he fitting in nicely? Are they looking for other options possibly as the transfer deadline is coming up pretty soon?
Yeah, so to fill in your listeners in case they didn't hear the first episode, John Bell was a signing from the Revolution 2 team, and I don't remember if the signing was official when we talked to you guys, but he tweeted out something of him.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it wasn't official yet. It was like rumored.
So,
yeah.
So it was rumored he was going to sign. So a bunch of us on Revs Twitter tweeted out #announce John Bell, and then they did. They signed him. And I didn't expect anything big to come from John Bell this season. He kind of seemed like a depth signing to me, but he's turned into the third center back on the team. He's getting a lot of minutes. Henry Kessler, weirdly enough, who's with the United States right now at the Gold Cup, he was expected to be kind of the number one center back going into the season, but Bruce Arena has rotated Kessler and Bell on and off this season.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Arena's line is that he says that there's a lot of schedule congestion and they wanted to kind of make sure they had 3 center backs that they could trust. So John Bell is that third center back and he wanted to get him some minutes early in the season. But it is odd that Kessler has been the one that has gone to the bench while Andrew Farrell plays every single game. Mm-hmm. So John Bell seems to be competing with Henry Kessler for minutes. And, that just goes to speak to, I think how much we were sleeping on John Bell going into the season. We didn't expect him to make this impact, but he's challenging a United States men's center back for minutes week in and week out. So with that being said, there is some concern along that back line. I would say John Bell right now is a rotation piece. I don't think a lot of Revs fans would feel great if he was the starting center back for the rest of the season, so to speak. Mm-hmm. If he's starting an MLS Cup, I don't know if that's there's a lot of confidence there. People kind of like him as a prospect that's still kind of growing. And again, graduating college 2 years ago, he was a left back. So he's a converted center back. So he's still learning a little bit. But overall, this summer window, a lot of Revs fans are clamoring for another center back to at least add into the mix because Bell and Kessler seem to be question marks. No one knows who's got that spot locked down. And then Andrew Farrell has played every single game, and he's a veteran presence. And it's helping out a very young back line. But a lot of people have some questions about Farrell as well. So neither center back spot really right now is clear, and maybe there's going to be some answers down the line. But if you were to poll Revolution fans, I think the number one spot people want to see an addition or an upgrade is center back for some stability on that back line.
Yeah, we're just waiting here on Stateside for John Bell to take over the Defensive Player of the Year eventually down the road and strip it away from Walker and just completely come onto the scene.
Former UMBC
yes.
player, John Bell.
Yeah,
that's right around my neck of the woods.
That's true. And you know what? When you put it in terms of UMBC, it's not a real big surprise to see him take that spot from Kessler, because it's not the first time anyone from UMBC has upset someone from UVA.
That's true.
That's true.
We want to get your thoughts on the rebrand. I'm going to show it on the screen here for any of the viewers, but I want to get your thoughts on it because I don't think Revolution have announced it, but it seems to be on upcoming merch and stuff. But this is what it looks like, and just wanted to get your thoughts. This is what it reminded me of. It reminded me of the Friends thing on the back of Monica's door here. But what are your thoughts on the new Revolution logo, supposedly?
Yeah. I didn't like it at first. I think any rebrand, though, I wouldn't have liked. I think one thing that some Revs fans really like is that we are still kind of got that one MLS 1.0
crayon flag.
Yeah, the crayon flag. We kind of like the originality, and every team comes out with a new rebrand, and it kind of seems weird. We just played Montreal this past weekend. I don't think that impact, the changing from the impact really worked out.
Columbus it did not make an impact on
no. And then whatever Columbus tried doing earlier this year, that was kind of weird. So I think just normally some Revs fans, and myself included, are kind of hesitant to just rebranding at all. But with that being said, if we had to rebrand, I don't hate this. They keep the name New England Revolution, which to me is very important. I think if they were New England FC or New England United or Boston United, I think that would turn off a lot of fans. And then the logo itself looks a little weird and it'll take a while to get used to, but I've certainly seen a lot worse. They certainly could have completely dropped the ball. So overall, on the grand scheme of things, if I'm grading this rebrand, I'm probably giving it a B or a B-. I don't love it, but I don't completely hate it. And so in a lot of ways, that's a win.
Yeah, I think we both like it here. I think when we talked about it, we both liked it. I think it looks really good on a shirt, too, because they get rid of the circle, I think, right? It's just like the red and the R when it's on a jersey or shirt. So I like that.
I feel like it's something the more you look at it, the more it grows on you. Because, I could see that being a great crest or something like that. There's a lot of potential with it. So it's rumored. They didn't deny it. So we don't know if this is in its final form. But I agree with you guys. It'll grow on people. I think in 3 or 4 years, no one's going to have any objections to it.
Right.
Yeah, I think one last question. Yeah, one last question before we have you plug your stuff. We, of course, have to gush about Matt Turner like we did last time, and just kind of get your thoughts on the season he's having, your thoughts on how he's played in Gold Cup, and do you think there's a future there? Do you think that Matt Turner can kind of chase some of these guys with the U.S. men's national team?
Yeah, Matt Turner, arguably it's his worst season with the Revolution if you look at expected goals. And that's because there just hasn't been as much pressure on him. He's still performing very well, but he just isn't under siege as much as he has been in seasons past. But overall, he's having a very good season, kind of par for the course. It's really exciting to see him get some minutes with the United States national team in the Gold Cup. I like to think he's challenging. Since the last time we talked, Ethan Horvath happened, and so I think that kind of muddies the waters even more. So Turner's in a really tough spot in my eyes, where with the U.S., he's a little too old really to kind of be the long-term prospect with Ochoa breathing down his neck. So he kind of has to make his move now, and I think he's doing well at the Gold Cup, but the United States defense hasn't given up many opportunities. He's made some saves when his numbers is called, but I worry the impact he's making isn't enough to really shake up things on the depth chart. So maybe that'll change throughout the rest of the tournament. I know he had a good save against Jamaica. Maybe there's a Mexico game where he stands on his head and kind of broadens that conversation a little bit more. But right now, I'm worried he's a little bit in limbo and he's not going to be able to crack kind of the top 2 spots now, not just the starting spot, but I'm worried that this Gold Cup is going to go good, not great. And, as a 26-year-old, I worry that's going to be the nail in the coffin for him. But what do you guys think? Because I know you guys follow the U.S. Probably a little bit more than me.
Yeah.
Unbiased, where do you think on Matt Turner?
No, I think you bring up a good point with Horvath, but I do think Matt Turner is probably still the best shot stopper out there, and I really still worry about Zach Steffen being at Manchester City and not getting a lot of playing time. I know a lot of people will say, well, he's training against some of the best players in the world, but it's totally different. Like when we saw him come over for the Nations League, I think it was in that first match of the Nations League or one of the friendlies of the Nations League, he looked a little lost at times, Steffen, like a little out of step. And it's because he'd only played the FA Cup or the Capital One Cup, one of the cups. Right. Carabao Cup, I guess is what's called now. Capital One Cup. That was a while ago. So I still think there is a spot for Matt Turner, but like you said, he hasn't really had statistically his best season either, so I'm not sure how much Greg is putting in that. But, hey, like you said, if we face Mexico in a final and we end up winning it because he stands on his head, I think that perception could change again.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think with Steffen, I thought that the injury that he sustained, because again, soccer is just not transparent enough with their injuries. But then he walks in and he starts today for City in their preseason match. So I think that, like you said, Greg, I agree. I think he's probably third on that depth chart. It's really hard to kind of shake loose the tree that those two limbs are up there. So I think with Horvath, the way that he played,
it also depends how Horvath does at Nottingham because he just moved clubs too. So I guess we'll see that.
Yeah, I think you needed Matt maybe to have it, and maybe it's good for Revs fans that he hasn't had to do it as much this year. But maybe if he had to stand on his head all the time with the Revs, kind of like a Stewart does for Austin, I guess you could make the case for hey, maybe Matt Turner. But I think you're right. I think with just the profile, and it seems like Greg has just favored Steffen no matter where Steffen's been. It's been Zach Steffen's his guy, and I think that's pretty much going to be the case when World Cup qualifying comes around. But it is nice to have a Matt Turner in your back pocket in case something happens to the two of them.
Yeah, I think the feedback from or the impression Matt Turner is making in the Gold Cup is positive. So, we're really excited about that. But again, I don't know if it's enough to really change heads and think, we need to shoot this guy up the depth chart. So, as I say, the waters are a little bit muddied. So I don't know. It's a little disappointing from that standpoint. But as I say, I think just Matt Turner playing in the Gold Cup and starting getting quality minutes is a really, really positive sign. And, it's really all we could ask for, because I think a year ago, we weren't really sure he was even going to get the opportunity. So
I do have one last one, actually, just about like potential stadium for, New England Revolution in Boston. We hear about this every, couple of years or whatever. But do you think that ever actually happens at any point, or are they perpetually stuck in Gillette Stadium?
Yeah, well, and actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because in regards to the rebrand, everyone thought that a rebrand would come when a stadium happens.
Right, right.
And, so people got excited when there was rumors of the rebrand, and then I think someone from The Athletic tweeted out a quote that someone in the Revs said that they're not necessarily going to go hand in hand. So that kind of deflated those rumors.
Yeah.
There is some talk about there's a casino in Everett, which is north of Boston, which is not doing great. It opened just a few years ago, but they have some land around them, and the Crafts have kind of been tied with them as maybe that's a location for a stadium that the casino would lease the land to them and give them a deal to kind of bring people up there.
Is that closer than Foxborough? Because I'm not too familiar with that.
Yeah. Foxborough is a while away. It's probably a good half an hour to 45 minutes south.
Oh, okay.
It's closer to Rhode Island than it is to Boston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a hike down. So Everett is just north of the city. Traffic would be a little tough, but that's kind of the biggest, rumor right now that's tied to it. Boston real estate is just really expensive, and I know New York City FC is going through the same thing.
Yeah,
there's just a limited supply, and a soccer stadium just isn't at the top of the list in terms of what the city of Boston needs. So, and in terms of public financing, Kraft doesn't seem to really have a lot of pull in getting it for a soccer stadium, which is always, a big hurdle for. I mean, he didn't get public, or he was very close to not getting public financing for the Patriots and almost the team, the Hartford, in the 90s. So a soccer stadium is going to be hard. So I'm very pessimistic on it ever happening. A lot of things would have to fall into place. A lot of fans are at the point of, wanting a stadium outside of Boston and maybe in the suburbs, maybe in Foxborough, maybe somewhere else. But yeah, in terms of a Revolution Stadium, I'm very pessimistic on it happening anytime in the near future.
Well, let's end on that downer, I guess. But Greg, if you want to go ahead and plug where people can find all of your hard work.
Yeah, you can find us. We're on Revolution Recap. We're available on all podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, whatever platform. You'll find us. Just search Revolution Recap. You can also find us on social media at Revolution Recap on Twitter. We also have a Revolution Recap Facebook and Instagram pages. So anytime we do a live Twitter show where people can join in and give their thoughts, you can join us on Twitter, and we'll update that on Facebook and Instagram as well. And also, since we've talked last, we have a new sponsor of the show, Golasso Kits, GolassoKits.com. They have new and used jerseys. They have teams from all over the world, over 80 countries, club and country, anything you can find. So regardless of what team you support, there's probably going to be something for you. And if you use promo code Revs Recap, REVS RECAP, it's 15% off your order. So give them, check them out, GolassoKits.com or at GolassoKits on Twitter.
Awesome. Thanks for jumping on, Greg. We'll have to have you on, when they're lifting that supporter shield later this year.
Lifting the supporter shield, lifting the MLS Cup, lifting the Open Cup next year.
Right.
Lifting John Bell.
All the above. But anyway, thank you so much for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. And I really enjoy your show, too. I've been listening throughout the year. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
See you later.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice to have Greg back on.
It's really fun to talk to guys like that, just because it gives you a sense of what's going on around the team that you just don't know much about, because we never would have dug up the Kraft, the casino connection unless we really wanted to get digging on that stadium.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's just cool to just hear, and I didn't know Foxborough was near Rhode Island. I had no idea
neither.
What Foxborough was.
I knew it was somewhere in Massachusetts is all I knew.
I thought it was in hell because Tom Brady was always there, but
yeah, you're a Dolphins fan for people. You're a Dolphins fan, so that is, so you were living in hell in those years. And I am a Ravens fan, so we don't have a good time with Tom either.
No.
Let's go ahead and move on from that. Let's go ahead and preview the games coming up. We have LAFC versus Minnesota. That's tomorrow or today, whatever day you're listening. Wednesday, July 28th at 10:30 p.m. And that game is on, does it say where it is on? It does not. Just a second. It is on just ESPN+. Then we have on Friday, New York City FC versus Columbus on ESPN+. We have Orlando versus Atlanta at 8 o'clock. My sister will be there, and so will my dad and my parents. Everybody's going to be there except for me.
Holy cow.
8 o'clock on ESPN. Then at 10 o'clock, we have LA Galaxy versus Portland Timbers in what should be a fun matchup in the West. That's on ESPN as well. So we got a battle in the East. We'll see how Orlando should win that one, but we'll see.
Oh, well, yeah, thanks, Jordan.
We'll see how that goes after the 5-0 whooping.
Yikes.
Saturday, we have Seattle versus San Jose at 5 o'clock on ESPN+. We have New York Red Bulls versus New England on ESPN+. And we have Cincinnati versus DC United on ESPN+. Miami versus Montreal on ESPN+ at 8 o'clock. Then we have Houston versus Salt Lake at 8:30 on ESPN+. Kansas City versus Dallas at 8:30. 9 o'clock is Austin versus Colorado, and Vancouver versus Minnesota at 10 o'clock. All of those games on ESPN+. Then on Sunday, we have Philadelphia Union versus Chicago on TUDN, Unimas, and Twitter. Then Toronto versus Nashville on ESPN+ at 7:30. Let's just switch gears real quick to the USA. On Sunday at the witching hour of 10 o'clock by the time this thing kicked off. And USA win 1-0 over Jamaica. Pretty a nerve-wracking game here as they had to go up against Andre Blake. But they eked it out. They won. And thankfully it was before extra time. I'll tell you, I had to stay up late anyway because my wife was coming home late from her trip. Mm-hmm. And I still ended up being able to go to sleep before she got home after this game ended. But I was like, are you kidding me? This is going to go extra time. And I'm going to have to end up staying up late. But we got it done in like the 84th minute or something.
Yeah. No, I was late. I'm really late. Yeah, it was 83rd minute.
Really late. It got to a point where I was texting Logan. He wasn't responding back, and I was like, I'm pretty sure he fell asleep.
No, I wasn't. You know what's funny is
it's hockey in the 83rd minute.
Yeah, when you texted, I was watching on my iPad, and my iPad, like, it sucks up notifications sometimes, so then it doesn't come to my phone. So I look at my phone and go, oh crap, he's texted me like 5 times. But I was losing speed. I was like, if this was a school night, like, this would have had me. Like, this, I couldn't have watched the end of it because it's too late. But luckily Thursday against Qatar is 7:30, so
yes,
that's exciting.
The East Coast gets the good side this time.
Yeah.
Woo!
So
7:30 against Qatar, who has been playing fantastic this tournament, and also not just fantastic,
the host,
but they've been playing beautiful games. And I don't mean just like how they've been playing. I just mean like back and forth action on both sides, almost blowing a lead against El Salvador. So I feel pretty good against them. They've been leaking goals a bit. So we'll see how that goes. I'm feeling pretty confident. How are you feeling? That's on Thursday.
Yeah, they score quite a bit, so I think it'll be a good test for the defense. I think it'll be a lot better defense, or good for the defense, which is weird to say, than Jamaica, because I think the defense is going to have to come out and play. But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I don't know much about Qatar at all, so the host of the World Cup, and we'll get to see what the hosts have in store for us in the Gold Cup.
Mexico versus Canada. That should be a fun one as well. I'm really hoping for a Canada-U.S. final.
That would that'd be so fun.
That'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
So
we're rooting for the neighbors of the North and not the neighbors of the South?
Yeah. Kings of the North.
Okay.
Let's quickly touch on the U.S. women's team here. A lot of people woke up at 4 a.m. this morning to watch.
We need to just stop playing at 4 a.m. is what needs to happen.
To watch a very
lackluster,
non-entertaining game here, where it seemed like they were just not the players themselves were content with the 0-0 draw, but I think the coaches were, and it ended up being a 0-0 draw. Alex Morgan did score a goal that was disallowed for offside, and a lot of people think this one was onside, so we kind of got some unlucky there. But they lose to Sweden 3-0 in the opening match, which I'm not sure if we talked about that last week. That may have been the day after we recorded, or maybe we did talk about it. And then they beat I'm blanking on the name here. Who did they beat?
They beat New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand 6-1.
Yeah.
I was watching that one. That was a blur on Saturday. I'll tell you that much. And then today they draw 0-0. Now they are going through, but they will face the Netherlands, which is a rematch of the 2019 World Cup final. A little worrying that they have to face a team that good this quickly here. And last Olympics they had problems in the they got knocked out in the quarterfinals, I think it was, as well. So how are you feeling? Feeling any confident here?
No.
I feel like it's very hard to flip a switch from that performance to then a meaningful game that they have to win, and I think that might be their problem.
Yeah, and I think the Netherlands are actually a pretty decent side too, so I think it'll be a difficult match. I don't know. They're in a weird funk. We don't see this very often with the women's team, and when we do, it comes at the expense of the coach. So, maybe there's a situation where the U.S. come out of this tournament and they're looking for a new head coach. Maybe they're looking for different pieces to play. I think that it's really weird that Alex Morgan is rotational, and Kristen Press seems to be rotational at times too, and their defense just hasn't been up to par. So I think it's a number of things. It's that and they're playing against teams that some of these teams haven't even played with each other for so long because of COVID, because the United States has been a lot more open about just playing these matches with the countries over here in CONCACAF. But you look at European teams. I mean, it was an interesting thing. I think they said it's been 18 months or something like that since the New Zealand team had played one match together. They had played some kind of people. They would try to get together and kind of play collectively. That I think they were limited to 4 or 5 people per group. So it's insane, and it's not good for the U.S. because I think you're starting to see the decline of some of the counting on, and I think they don't play as much as they can anymore. And they're not to the quality of what they used to be. And you're starting to see the younger kids kind of come in and play. So I think there's like this transition with the United States, and hopefully it's fixed by the next World Cup. But I think that they're learning a really tough lesson here in Tokyo.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but let's just say we can't take them for granted the whole time.
No.
So we shouldn't also be super upset. I understand when, like, this happens all the time with, like, Yankee fans, Patriot fans, stuff like that, where they kind of, like, if they have a down year, and they're like, this is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to be like that for the U.S. women's team, because, look, we've seen them, I've seen them in just recent years win 2 World Cups and a gold medal, and like that's more than some teams ever get to see. So we're not going to have this domination all the time as these other nations start to catch up. So I am just appreciative of how we've been. Now, I would like to see us maybe face tougher teams in our friendlies or something to prepare for some of these tournaments. This year, I'm not going to put too much stock on that just because of COVID and stuff, but we can't just be facing lesser teams where we thump them, 4-0, 5-0 all the time. We do have to start getting some better opponents. Facing Sweden more often would be really good, because they're always an Achilles heel for us. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I'm not feeling very confident in this match against Netherlands. It's very hard to be playing the way they are and then just turn it on. Mm-hmm. And if they can do that, if they can find that 5th gear or something, then congrats. They'll probably be good. But if they can't find that, then we're in some real problems. And I think you're right. I think Vlatko could be gone. He hasn't been – I mean, like, I know he had not had a loss for a long time, but again, they weren't facing like super quality teams recently. Right. So I guess we'll see how that goes. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. We'll probably have those games are all on the weekend, so we would be back next Tuesday to talk about that. We'll talk about how the USA did against Qatar, and then however the final goes on Sunday.
Yeah. So, there's another show coming on next Wednesday that fans will be excited for. Maybe, I don't know if we can plug Stoppage Time, but Stoppage Time is coming back.
Stoppage Time Soccer Show. That's our other show about the Premier League. We're going to be doing I think we're doing a transfer special next week, and then the week after that will be our preview for the season, just like we did here, where we predicted. Where I predicted Atlanta 2nd place, and that's not turning out so great. We also did, and I predicted Portland 1st. That's not turning out so great. We also predict the EPL. We nailed the top 4 last year, but we'll decide who is top 4. We'll decide who manager of the year is, which I nailed with Mikel Arteta last year. And
it's no Chris Wilder, okay?
Yeah, yours was Chris Wilder.
I'm telling you, everything that happens opposite, don't believe anything I say, people. Like, anything I say. So the U.S., the U.S. is going to lose 3-0 to Qatar.
So now we're going to win 3-0?
That's how it works.
All right. But yeah, we're going to be breaking all that stuff down for the Premier League, and we're going to be ramping up for our weekly Premier League reviews.
And a fantasy draft, if anybody wants to.
Yeah, we're probably trying to do a fantasy draft in time.
I can put it out on Stateside.
Go ahead. Let's do it. Let's do it. We have like 400 followers. We'll get some.
We'll find some people.
And we can do it on here. We can do it live like we did before, But yeah, so we'll be doing that. If you want to check us out there, that's at Stoppage Time. I don't know what, at Stoppage Show on Twitter and stuff.
I forget.
I have it right here. Hold on.
It's been too long, man.
Right here. Okay, at Stoppage Show, Facebook.com/Stoppage Time Soccer Show, StoppageTimeShow@gmail.com, or Instagram at Stoppage Time Soccer Show, where you can follow this show on Twitter at Stateside Show, Instagram at Stateside Show, Facebook.com/Stateside Show, or email stateside@gmail.com. And we'll catch you all next week. Go USA.